I don't know, but it had better be fair, and I'd like a home game. That's what an SEC coach told me this week about the SEC possibly adding 9 or 10 games. It's looking more and more like the SEC at most is going to add a ninth game, not a 10th. So it looks like Tech and Georgia, Florida State, Clemson, Carolina, and Kentucky, Louisville are safe games. And now with Alabama on the verge of adding BYU to start the season, there's only one team, Texas A&M, that doesn't have a ninth Power 5 or money schools, basically. Doesn't have those as an opponent. So now we're talking about a ninth game, and stick with me here as I walk you through this. Dean Legge from Dog Post, making you a smarter Georgia fan, and in this case, a smarter SEC and possibly college football fan. This is something that I talked about in today's what we're hearing over on Dog Post. If you haven't seen that yet or checked that out, you really should go to dogpost.com, dawgpost.com. Really, right now, this video you can press pause. It's better to read it. These are very long reports. When you start talking about adding a ninth game, inevitably it's an odd number. And then it comes down to who is going to play who and where is the game going to be played. It's hard to know right now if there will be fans in the stands. States like Kentucky are acting like there will be, but they're not. Florida and Georgia, South Carolina. I mean, South Carolina and Florida really, and Texas have had exploding coronavirus numbers here lately. And I don't know if that will factor into fans or not. I think it will. But let's just say you don't have fans at all. You'd still rather play a home game than an away game. We know now that Georgia has 3 home SEC games. That's it. We also know that, those 3 games, just off the top of my head, are Auburn, Tennessee, and Vanderbilt. The home game for Georgia with the Gators, it's in Jacksonville. So that game is probably, I think there's pretty much certainty that game is going to be played in Jacksonville. So then you get into the situation of, well, who's going to host these games? Like, would you give it to Georgia and have them have 4 home games, 4 away games in the neutral? What about the Gators? Or, like, who are you, putting them together with? Like, would an Eastern school wouldn't play an Eastern school twice. That would just make no sense. It would make things complicated and complex. So there's all of this still going on at the SEC. And, I think coaches, for the most part, have held their tongue. You're seeing the athletic directors who are having to deal with this. You'll know in the SEC when it's getting serious when the presidents of the institutions are involved. We're not there yet. We got about 12 days until the end of July. In these last 10, 12, in the next 10 to 12 days, that's when you're going to see real action happen in this conference. But in terms of the ninth game, that's hard to right now I would say that's probably not going to happen because you still have schools like, Georgia has 10 Power 5 games right now. Schools like Clemson, Louisville, Florida State, they already have 10 games. Like the ACC adding another conference game would probably push Clemson over the limit because in Clemson's case, if you'll stick with me on this, they're not going to want to get rid of either the South Carolina game or the Notre Dame game. Now, if you're saying, well, the coaches like to get rid of them, yeah, maybe the Notre Dame game, that's a road game for Clemson. But there's more and more of these schools in the ACC and the SEC that have all 10 Power 5 Power 5 games already lined up. The Big 10 the Big 12 can't add a 10th game. They have 10 teams in their conference. That would involve everybody playing just some one random team again. That's not going to happen. So what you're going to see probably happen here. Step 1 is they're going to delay the season. That would be my suspicion until October. If you haven't read What We Were Hearing, you should have read it last week. It gives insight into that. Step 2 is this is looking more and more like a 10-game season with the bulk of it, if not 80% of it, being conference games. The question are these last 2 games. And I'll be talking with Gary Stoken from the Peach Bowl, the Chick-fil-A Bowl, whatever you want to call it, in Atlanta later this week to get a little more insight into Georgia, Virginia, Florida State, West Virginia. Those are games, and North Carolina, Auburn. Those are all Atlanta games. They're all in jeopardy, if you want to call it that. But I think what we're going to see is that everybody's going to sort of already have their 9th game. Are these conferences really going to add a 9th conference game to get them over the hump for the season? I'm skeptical that that's going to be the case. Anyway, we are going to send you right here to a 2020 playlist. Make sure you check it out. And we'll be at 2020 before you know it. Don't worry. It may be the spring of 21, but we'll be playing this season here soon. Dean Legge from Dog Post. Thanks for watching.